We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study. And each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane Page. I am your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. And I am joined by BGN's own film guru, Jonny Page. Give him a follow on Twitter at JohnnyPage9. Jonny, how are you doing this evening?
I am good. The Eagles won, and do you know what they did, Shane? They did the good stuff more and the bad stuff less, and therefore everyone is happy. Is that a fair summary? Do you know? I actually put this in my Bleeding Green article because I almost felt like I was come across as like people might actually think that there are Eagles coaches that have read a single word I've ever written. So I put in very clear letters like Kellen Moore and the Eagles staff have never, ever read a single word I've ever written or listened to a word I've ever spoken. And I am pretty certain, in fact, I would be very concerned if the Eagles coaching staff were taking ideas. No disrespect to ourselves, Shane, but from the likes of me and you, I feel like they should know the stuff that we're talking about. But literally what we said last week, they did this week. And it was pretty weird watching the film. And even watching it live, it was obvious. I was like, yes, this is what it was. Like we said last week, don't do this. And they were like, yeah, we stopped doing it. And then we were like, replace it with this. And they were like, yeah, we'll do that. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. So yeah, the offense in particular, I felt really positive. I'm a little bit more negative on the defense than some. I think maybe the fumbles and stuff maybe like deflected from the fact Washington, I think, moved the ball pretty well at times. But I really enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the second half immensely. I really wanted to play the Washington Commanders, as you know. So I was very, very happy. So, yeah, there we go. There we go.
See, I disagree with you already, Jonny. I am convinced that GGN 10 is Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was number 11 when he played at Boise State. And I think GGN is just like, you know what? I'm going to knock one off the number and they'll never suspect it. But you heard it here first. Kellen Moore has been in the chat of every episode that we've done this season, and it finally paid off.
Yeah, that's the real answer. Yeah, I had to put that in big bold letters in my Bleeding Green article because I always get some very lovely comments, some very nice people saying like maybe he read or you should be hired, and I'm like, honestly, no. If he does, if he ever has, I'm very concerned. I don't think I'm teaching Kellen Moore anything. I'm sure Kellen Moore knows, but it was just nice to see. And of course, it's great that after the best game plan in the world, it comes out that he's now leaving, basically, or not definitely leaving, but there's a great chance of him leaving. So we get to spend all this podcast praising him, and then we'll probably see a report in like 2 days saying, "Oh yeah, he's gone," which is great.
Yeah. We'll see about that. Before we dive in real quickly, also just want to point out we are just getting kicked off with our Super Bowl content schedule. So we're doing our film review show today. Later today, I've already recorded it, but I haven't got to edit it and upload yet. My Jalen Hurts pass game review will hit Patreon. Next week, we're going to have BLG on a Thursday show to do a Super Bowl preview. And then we've got a lot of Patreon exclusive content in the lead up to the Super Bowl too. We're going to, on Friday, rewatch the Chiefs offense against the Bills defense on All-22 and talk through it. We'll do the same thing early next week for the Chiefs defense. And then on the actual game day, Jonny is going to do a Super Bowl pregame. And I'm going to try to join. It just might not work out for me. So a lot of stuff coming your guys' way. If you're not in the Patreon, consider joining the Patreon. I mean, how often do the Eagles go to the Super Bowl? Of course, the answer right now is seemingly 3 times every 8 years. But the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. Splurge and grab yourself a Patreon membership for 1 month. You can catch all our content. I think it'll convince you to stay. And if you hurry and do it in the next 2 days, you'll actually also be entered in our jersey giveaway. So a lot of perks there. Go check out the Patreon, patreon.com/ontheshanepage. But Jonny, let's dive into it now. You want to go offense first or defense first?
I was just going to plug my own little work as well. I think one of my weekend jobs is I want to go back and if you're in the Discord, which you've plugged already on Patreon, I will. What was I going to say? I'm planning on watching like every Chiefs turnover, every Chiefs touchdown for my Bleeding Green stuff. So I'll probably pop loads of thoughts in the Discord as I'm watching through that. Also, just a couple of things. There's a good comment with loads of comments coming in, which is awesome. There's one coming in saying, "Have we seen QB scores review?" Me and Shane have the same opinion on this. We don't watch other people's stuff before we record because we will be influenced by it massively. And GG Intent saying that JT was unhappy with our blitz pickups, and I completely agree. And Shane's going to do a whole point on this. I will just say, like, I even said in my Bleeding Green article, I don't care that much because Jurgens wasn't playing. But just to give you a little bit of an idea, and I'm not saying that like because I don't think JT's great. I just refuse to watch anyone in general. So hopefully we don't repeat the same stuff. And if we do, I promise you it comes from our own opinions because I specifically ignore what anyone else says. So no, I have not watched it yet, Jake, but I will. I always watch it normally the day after we've recorded, just to see if there's things that I missed or things that I agree with and stuff. But yeah, you're not just going to get us rehashing what JT has said, hopefully, anyway.
I mean, if we say the same things, clearly JT O'Sullivan invented a time machine. And he watched this podcast and then went back. No, I'm just kidding. We always refer to it as checking our homework after we've done our recordings and stuff. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and dive in, Johnny. I'll let you pick offense or defense. Yeah,
let's do offense. I feel like offense has got more of the interesting stuff to start with. Do you want to start things off, or would you like me to?
Sure, I'll start us off here. I'm going to lead us off with our player spotlight. So every week we put out in the Patreon Discord and on Patreon and let people vote for the player that they would like us to spotlight. And I always make it one of my points. And this week, Dallas Goedert won that. And I just wanted to showcase a few different things here. It's obviously not every play that Goedert made in this game, but we can start on the opening run. And if you just watch Dallas Goedert, and, this is a nice little play. It's a little crack toss, A.J. Brown down blocking, and you get Dallas Goedert pulling around the edge. And just watch the block that he makes on Jeremy Chin and how he's able to drive him out of the play. He makes contact at like the 40 and pushes him all the way out to the sideline at the 50-yard line. And then, of course, you get Saquon Barkley doing Saquon Barkley things. And I think I also showed this one from the back view just so we can marvel at Saquon a little bit more. But again, if you just watch Goedert, and there's a lot of things you could watch on this play, but I'm just going to focus on Goedert because that's who my player spotlight is. And the way that he's able to get the edge, and Jeremy Chin right here is who he's going to make contact with. And look, contact on the 4, and they don't disengage until they're at the sideline at the 50. So I thought that was a really good play by Dallas Goedert. Obviously, great play by Saquon, a bunch of people, but it sets the tone right out of the gate. And then they did some other things that I liked. One of the things so they bring Devontae Smith in motion here, and this is an RPO, but it's a little bit of a change up. A lot of times they'll pull Dallas Goedert across this formation. We saw them do that at times in this game. But on this one, they start him on the side that Hurts is going to roll out to, and they just have him run this little sit route. But they clear it out with this Devontae Smith motion and going up the sideline. And this is just a nice little easy pitch and catch, getting Goedert involved in the game, getting Jalen Hurts in a rhythm, picks up an easy first down on 2nd and 10. So I liked that one. Here you see him blocking out at the boundary for a screen pass. And Johnny, here's a novel thought. How about we throw a screen pass behind our tight end that's a top 5 blocker in the league instead of behind a 170-pound receiver? It's funny how that works out so much better, right? And I did show the back view on this one because this hurdle attempt by Kenny Gainwell is just hilarious. I tweeted it out, but you can also see, you'll see Goddard's block here, engage, pushing downfield, and then I don't know what that hurdle is by Gainwell. And then we get the 2 jet sweeps from Dallas Goedert. And so they got him involved in the run game as well. And in 92 career games, he only had 1 rushing attempt, and it was actually a backwards pass on a screen pass. They gave him 2 carries in this game for 13 yards, and it caused some problems. And you look at this one in particular where you leave that defensive tackle unblocked. And I'm sure our listeners know this, but the Chiefs have a pretty good defensive tackle. And it would be nice at times if you can leave him unblocked and just get around to the edge anyways. So just a brief thing on Goedert. And there's a lot of other plays you could have shown, but Goddard's had a huge impact. And I mean, he's a top 5 tight end when he's healthy and when he gets volume. Those 2 things just don't often happen.
Yeah, interesting question when you think of how many, like, obviously I'm not including quarterback here, how do I phrase this? How many backups are significantly worse than their starters? So, like the drop off from the Kobe Dean to Oren Burks has been okay. The drop off from Quinyon Mitchell to Isaiah Rodgers wasn't great, but it wasn't huge. The drop off between Goedert to Calcaterra is absolutely astronomical. Like, it's huge. And I'm not being rude to Calcaterra because I think he's an okay player, but he's better at everything. And when you're like play so much 11 personnel, I feel like it has an even bigger impact. It's not even like you can share the snaps. It's not like a receiving core where you can give Dotson a little bit more, or there's just like one guy replaces him. Everything Goedert does, Calcaterra does it, and it's such a massive impact. I think he's made a huge difference coming back. Matt commented saying, "What sounds came out of our mouths on the Goedert jet sweep?" I can't repeat them on this podcast. Otherwise, Shane will definitely clip it up. I will just say that, like, I watched so much Kellen Moore in the offseason, which is great. I'm probably gonna have to do that again for another offensive coordinator. But anyway, and they used to run jet sweeps all the time. There was so many wide receiver runs. He did it all of the time. Like, I commented on it when they traded for Dotson. I said, I'm surprised because Dotson's not a jet sweep guy. And it's why I predicted them to draft Anaya Smith. That was my prediction I called that out on my Bidding Green article, saying he is going to fit the idea of like a wide receiver who can run. And I just don't get where they've been all year. But it was cool to see it come back. Right, I want to get on to the big one. I feel like this is the big one that everyone's been talking about. So I'm going to take it this week, which is good. I was hoping you didn't pick it out, but I guess you probably thought that I was going to talk about it as well. So I'm going to talk about just general passing game design, but in particular, what I call like progressions. Or there's been a lot of talk this week. I think not since our podcast, other people were talking about it as well, but we went very heavy last week. I went very heavy in my Bidding Green article on this idea of full field progressions. And you've been shouting about backside routes basically for about 2 months straight. I think, Shane, the Eagles pretty much eliminated them. Funny enough, I can't remember what play it was, but there was one play where Hurts nearly got sacked and it was a backside route. And I was like, oh no. And I thought they were going to do it again, but they didn't really. There was very, very few backside timing routes. Do you know the play I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, you're about to hop in there. You're about to hop in. So what we
No, I was laughing at the comment that Kellen Moore must be in the Discord. So.
Yeah, we've got to try and figure out who it is. GGN10 just ruining our video. Thanks, GG, again, by commenting about JT. God, just go and watch JT O'Sullivan's live. GG, who says, the biggest weakness in Hurts' game is getting to the backside. Yeah, it is. So don't call it. Like, this is my thing about quarterback play is like, all right, everyone knew it's his weakness. You don't have to design an offense around it. There are other ways of winning. So anyway, this week, Shane, they did the actual different things. So there were some great examples, and one of them I legitimately like jumped out of my chair. I was so happy when I saw it. But I'll show you a couple that I liked. So play 4 of my film thread, Shane. This is actually like a 2x2. So you could argue it's the kind of stuff that I wasn't calling for, because if you look pre-snap, if you just pause it pre-snap for a second, Shane, technically this is a 2x2, and technically there is a backside route. But there's a huge difference in which they are all flowing to one direction of the field. So if Hurts does have to get here to his full 3, let's say I think he'll read this 1 to 2, 3, and then 4 would be the backside dig. The dig is very, very tight. So even if he gets to his full 3 here, he is going to get very, very close to his line of vision. You picture him looking all the way to the right and looking all the way back to the left. He doesn't have to do that here. The furthest his head will move is probably from the out to the middle. Like, he can do that. So this is a beautiful play. And guess what, Shane? Hurts was really decisive. Hurts was really good. And when Hurts is decisive, the numbers when Hurts throws the ball are elite because he is so accurate. His ball placement is so good. Most mobile quarterbacks that play like Lamar Jackson, the longer he holds the ball in the pocket, the more worried you get because you think he's going to do something special. Jalen's the opposite. Jalen's mobile as a runner. As a passer, he's not great at extending plays. He never has been. He is such a timing rhythm quarterback. So this was a lovely, lovely throw. Even if he didn't get to his second read here, the third read, I believe, is open, and it's just all in one field of vision. I think sometimes it also makes it easier for you because you haven't got to pick a side pre-snap. You're going to read it 1 to 2 to 3. Sometimes if you pick a side pre-snap, Shane, we've said Hurts eliminates things too early, and that's because you're panicking. You're thinking, I've got to get backside. So remember last week, AJ Brown was pressed early on, and there was a route, and there was a comeback route, and we said that you pointed out, and I sort of disagreed slightly, but you said he should have stayed on the route, and I said I can see why he came off it. In that particular play, you can sort of stay on it for as long as you want. within reason, because you haven't got to get all the way backside in time. So it gives you more chance for a play to develop. And it just worked so much better this week. There were so many calls like that. There was a really, really nice call of mesh that was similar, where it was all in his line of vision. But my absolute favorite, this is by a mile, I think it's my favorite play I've seen in years, or not years, sorry, all year. Play 8 of my film thread. For the Patreon a couple of weeks ago, I did a season award show, and I picked the post Will to Saquon Barkley as my play of the year. I think I would change it to this one. I love this. So a little bit of like basic philosophy. When you play more, let's not call them half-field reads, but you can call them half-field reads. When you do more half-field read stuff, the obvious problem, Shane, is you only use half the field. So the defense can sometimes squash that zone. They can flood that zone themselves. Fangio is really good at this. And sometimes they haven't, what was I going to say? They haven't been able to stretch a defense horizontally and vertically. They're running a lot of short hitches, a lot of short spacing concepts, and there's nothing vertical, there's nothing horizontal. This is like perfect. No offense to Jahan Dotson. He is literally there to stretch defense horizontally. He's never getting this football. So Jahan Dotson is a sacrificial lamb. He just runs across in motion and basically hides in the corner. And his sole purpose is just to stretch them horizontally. Then I think you get Devontae Smith running a deep post. There's your vertical stretch. Shane, just do me a favor with your lovely little graphics. Draw a triangle between Saquon, Dotson, and Devontae Smith for a second. Can you remember some of the concepts we've been seeing of late in terms of how much space a defense has got to cover? That's within 1 second of the snap. Then what you have is Jalen Hurts will be reading this like a flood concept. So 1, the post. 2, Dallas Goedert intermediate. 3, check down. 4, AJ Brown across the middle of the field. It's basically a post will. Some people will call this like a flood, a sail, or whatever. I call it post will with a flat. So I called it in my PG article post will flat with a shallow crossing as the option. But let's just hypothetically say this isn't open. Let's say Dallas Goedert isn't open. If he wants to get to his third read, all in the line of vision. If he wants to get to his fourth read, AJ Brown is running across exactly the same as the earlier play. Like, I can't stress this enough. This is exactly what I wanted to see. This is going to sound really sad, but I was Googling last week some full field progressions, and I really need to remember the name of the guy I found. I've been subscribing to his Substack for years, so I should remember it. There's a really good Substack out there. I'll find it and I'll tweet it at some point. I'll find it while we are filming. There's a coach I follow, and long story short, this was the #1 play on his Substack for like this kind of progression. It was literally post wheel flat. So the second I saw it, I was like, oh my god. That was the exact thing I looked at last week. I was going to put it in the podcast if we had time. I was going to talk about that exact play. There are 2 examples there, but there was more than one example. There was more than one example where the Eagles had multiple concepts. And this doesn't just mean 2-men route. It's not one read and done. It's not one read and scramble. It's not really, really basic. You're still getting through 4 reads, but it is in your field of vision or in your line of vision. And it made such a big difference this week. I can't express how happy I was to see that, because it's been so bad the past couple of weeks. There's been so much man side concept, zone side concept, pick a side, pre-snap, Hurts, panics, goes backside, gets sacked. This was just, it was so much better. And it was obvious, I think, to anyone watching that the passing game design was significantly better. So sorry for a little rant there, but that was my long point I wanted to get into this week. More than anything, that stuff made me so happy.
Can I tell you one of my favorite things that out of this play? And I think it's also a little bit of a playoff of something they did against the Rams last week. Last week, backed up to their own goal line, you get 3rd and 14, and they run Saquon out into the flat, and they swing Dallas Goedert out in front of him, and they run all vertical routes to clear it out, right? And it turned into a big play, converting a 3rd and 14. I think there's a bit of playing off of that on the play that you just talked about, because if you watch Dallas Goedert, watch him off the snap, he doesn't fire up field. It's almost like he slow plays this, like, hey, I'm going to block you. And he gets that guy to commit down on Saquon, and then he just releases by him. And so I thought there was a nice little bit of sequencing there off of something that worked last week. You make it look similar. You get guys concerned about Barkley out to the flat with Dallas Goedert in front of him, and then all of a sudden Goedert's cutting up field. So I really like that from a play sequencing standpoint as well.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, it was just so much better than last week, wasn't it? It was so much better than last week.
Yep.
But yeah, right. Do you want to get into your second point, which I think is going to talk about something that I was going to talk about as well. So, assuming you're going to do play sequencing now?
Yeah, I'm going to do
Yeah, do
play
it.
sequencing. I'll circle back to the pressure. So I just thought there were a lot of things in this game where they married the run and the pass together. They played off of things they had done previously. And so I've got a few examples that I'm going to show. So the first one is this Saquon touchdown. You come out and you've got two tight ends attached to the left of the formation. Saquon offset to the left. You've got A.J. Brown condensed split to the right. And A.J. Brown runs this little glance route, and it's just to clear this cornerback out. And they hand the ball off to Saquon, and he goes and scores a touchdown. And so we'll watch this one play out real quickly. I love Frankie Louvu must have been so sick of Saquon Barkley by the end of this game. Like, Saquon Barkley pops him a few times in pass protection on the QB lead play. Here, Frankie Louvu is through the hole untouched, and he should have Saquon dead to rights. But because Saquon Barkley is a running back that's standing up instead of a quarterback that's laying on the ground, Frankie Louvu can't touch him, and he just gets outside for the touchdown. So that was cool. But let's go back to the Steelers game. What do you know? It's a pretty similar look, right? We've got two tight ends to the left. This time, Devontae Smith is over to the right, but Saquon Barkley, we've got a condensed split here, and they throw this little glance route to A.J. Brown. And so you're playing off of some of the things that you've liked to do in the red zone here. I mean, this is 2 months ago, right? But it's something that you can bring back out. Then another one that they did, this is a good example of marrying the run and the pass together. This is GT counter. You get your guard and your tackle pulling across the formation. They don't do a good job here. That's not the point. The point's not the execution. It's that they love to run like this. They don't do a good job of kicking Louvu out. Saquon makes him miss again anyways, which is hilarious. But now let's get to a play action pass using this GT counter look. So we're going to play fake, right? We get the guard and the tackle pulling off to the left, and Hurts is going to boot right, and he throws it to A.J. Brown out in the flat. And it helps that you catch Washington spinning into this stupid cover 2 invert they played half the game and got torched on. But showing one look in the run, doing the same thing in the pass. And then the last one I'll show here is we get this pop pass to Devontae Smith, right? And you get Saquon out as the lead blocker. It's not a world beater. You get like 7-8 yards, right? But then later in the game, you can come back. I'm going to skip over. Later in the game, you can come back, and I want you to watch two guys on this play. I want you to watch Bobby Wagner, and I want you to watch the safety, because you're going to get Devontae Smith in motion. Saquon Barkley's getting the ball coming to the left, but watch these two guys at the snap of the ball. Watch what they do. You just took two guys out of the play by motioning a 170-pound receiver. Like, he could block one of those guys, maybe. You got both of them out of the play just by giving him a pop pass earlier and then running him across the formation again. I thought the way that they sequenced plays in this game was incredible. Also kind of frustrating they didn't do this all year, but this was a great game for Moore in the offense.
Yeah, if you didn't take this and I knew what you were going to do, my second point was going to be marrying the run and the pass. It was so much better. I'm going to read from my article on Counter from, I do a concept of the week every week at Bidding Green. This is December the 14th. This is after the Eagles played Panthers, I think. And this is word for word. So I basically said, I don't understand why the Eagles don't run counter RPOs. I said, this week's going to be a little bit different. I want to discuss the Eagles concept I've already discussed variations of this year, because I've already spoke about counter and counter QB counter bash. I said, but this week I want to discuss on how the Eagles can build on this. One of my biggest complaints is that the Eagles passing game does not take advantage of their dominant rushing attack. The Eagles passing game doesn't seem to build on the running game at all. And I said, the Eagles wrecked the Panthers this week with counter. It was borderline ridiculous how much success they had when running counter. So why not build on that success and start running RPOs with counter run action? Like, I don't get it. And they did it this week like twice, and A.J. Brown's wide open, and the Washington guards are flying downhill. Because, Shane, you don't need to post a clip, but everyone hopefully knows, Will Shipley's long run at the end of the game. What was that on? Counter. Like, the Eagles' counter run game is unbelievable. So if you're going, you can post it while I'm talking. If you're going to just be this good at running a concept, then for God's sake, run variations of the play off of it. I don't understand how it's taken this long, but they did it, I think, about 3 times in this game. I think 2 of them they threw it to AJ Brown in the flat, and he was wide open, like wide open. I even posted on this article good English, that I wrote, and I included some examples they could do, like counter swing, counter Y flat. Like I've posted examples they could run, and there's some pictures of what they could do. Like there's so much. Literally go on Google, type in counter RPOs, and you'll find like 15 great film threads on articles. On that's what I did for the article on how to find it. Like it's mental to me they haven't done it more. But the sequencing was so much better. They took advantage of the jet sweeps. This is not my point, so I will just add this point. But my point was going to be marrying the run and the pass. This was easily their best game, tying the two together. Anything you wanted to add? Because you're about to jump in as well.
Yeah, people seem to like the Luvu shade, so one more for you. Here's Frankie Luvu again. He only likes to hit defenseless guys that are on the ground, right? Watch him just jump out of the way of Mekhi Becton pulling across the formation, and envision in your head how Nolan Smith attacks a puller is what you're supposed to do, and watch Frankie Luvu. Nope, I don't want any part of that. Let's just jump out of the way and give up a 70-yard run. So shout out to Frankie Luvu, the resident scumbag for the Commanders.
Yeah, Shane, can I just get into this? There's some great comments put away, and someone asked, are we able to rewatch these later on Patreon? Yes, I mean, the YouTube link's free for all, but we'll be doing some specific Patreon stuff, as you mentioned earlier on. I'm really looking forward to the Bills-Chiefs rewatch, actually, because I've only watched that game live. So if you want to see like how we analyze a game on the fly, it might be interesting. There's a couple of really good comments, like GGN10, what's the theory on why we didn't do this? And another good comment, was Kellen Moore previously used to building on running games that were different? And I think that might be an issue. Yes is the answer. Kellen Moore's bread and butter was jet motion, run outside zone the other way from under center. The Eagles don't do that very often at all. So when they had a fullback, Ben Van Sumen, they were running a little bit more, but now they've stopped doing that. I don't really have a theory. And there's loads of comments like, I don't know why haven't they done it? And I don't know either. I think my actual answer, and I don't believe like they're hiding it for the playoffs. I think there may be like a tiny bit of truth, but this teams was so good that maybe they could have done a bit more. But I don't think they were hiding this play, guys, because if they didn't get the 1 seed because Washington lose, they're going to a Lions team. They could easily lose to in Detroit. So you needed that 1 seed. Like my personal theory, and I'm interested if you even have a theory, Shane, because the answer is like, I don't know. But I wonder if they wanted to get Jalen Hurts to progress as a pocket passer, and they knew he could do this stuff. And this year was almost about building up some success where he doesn't have to rely on the run game. And secondly, I think the issue if you build your entire pass game around your run game is what happens when the run game doesn't work. Now, basically, the Eagles have not had that problem because Saquon Barkley has played every single week. But let's say Saquon did a hamstring and misses a month, and let's say that Lane Johnson goes down and Fred Johnson's not as good, or Jordan Mailata goes down at the same time as Juergens, and the run game's not as good. If all you run are these RPOs, your offense is incredibly predictable. I'm a huge believer in the fact you need to have a drop back pass game that is unrelated to your run game. I do not think you can live on these collegey offenses where everything you do is based on the run game. However, that doesn't mean when the run game is dominant, you need to just not marry the run and the pass. So that's my personal theory. I think they were trying too hard to build an offense without the run game. I still think, hand on heart, the Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie's, Harry Roseman's philosophy is pass first, run second. And I think they've had to adapt that. I mean, go back to the start of the year. I think they've had to adapt that because basically Saquon has been the best player in the NFL every week. And the run game has been so good that they basically haven't really needed to develop outside of the running games. That's my theory. Do you have one on why they haven't done it more?
Yeah, I don't have a good theory. I think that makes sense as much as any, though, is that Kellen Moore wanted to run his system, and that's not the best mesh with Jalen Hurts, and it's been a process of figuring out what actually works. And you can do that on a chalkboard and what feels comfortable to you, and you can do that in training camp, but when live bullets are flying in a game, it's just different. And so I wish it wouldn't have taken this long, but hopefully it's not a one-off. Hopefully we see it built out some more.
Yeah, let's talk about something else on the same theme. So my second point is going to be, I just put I think I put easy money. Basically, the easy buttons. I like to talk about easy buttons, meaning like things that are just an offense can do that make things easy for the QB and easy for others. So I'm going to show you some of the easy buttons that the Eagles push. Now, disclosure, you've already shown some of them, so I won't repeat the same ones that you have shown. But I will show you a couple of different ones. So you've shown some of the RPO counter stuff. That was going to be mine. But some of the other easy stuff that I really, really liked was, let me go for, where is the play? Play 6 on my film thread. People used to moan about the Eagles throwing vertically to AJ Brown. And then people have realized, hang on a minute, Jalen Hurts throws one of the best deep balls in the league, and AJ Brown is an absolute superstar at winning vertically. So this is what I call easy money. 4th and 5. You motion your receiver out. AJ Brown, not even motion, sorry, he shifted. And there is no single high safety. You have, 100% you are getting 1 versus 1 man coverage here. Is this the most high percentage play in the world on 4th and 5? Probably not. Do I care? Also not, because AJ Brown is not really a 50-50 ball. And the other thing about this, if you look at it, funny enough, someone just commented saying, how do you feel about the 4th and 5 play? Like, I agree, it's not the most percentage-based play. I'm sure there'll be other people saying, like, you could do something else. But also, I think when he throws this for what it's worth, I think he knows he's going to be open. I don't think this is just like a shot in the dark 50-50. If you look at when he releases it, if he doesn't like this, he could come to Goedert in the middle of the field there, who is at the sticks, and Devontae Smith. Now, neither of them actually win particularly well, and I would love to have these two crossing here. But I think actually, let's not talk about the spacing on this play because I'll get annoyed again. Because I think the spacing is pretty rubbish. I think Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert could do a lot more here. They could cross, or Goedert could get out of Smith's way because I think Smith is going to win. But I don't see these players low percentage. I've said this for years, by the way. Go back to anything I've written for years. I don't care about throwing outside the number deep shots to AJ Brown. Would I love it on 4th and 5? It would have been my number one call. Maybe not. But he's wide open. And Jalen Hurts throws an unbelievably good deep ball. We just haven't done it the last 2 months. I don't really care if it's simple. I am totally fine with this play. To me, for this Eagles offense, that is easy money. And then there's my favorite easy money play of the whole game, Shane, which is the next one on my film, Fred, play 7. This is just so easy. So what do? You run 4 strong, or you run all 4 receivers on one side of the field. You line up your superstar receiver with an inside split, which means he can go left and right, and you get one-on-one coverage, and you throw it to him, and he scores a touchdown. Like, I don't want to make it sound too obvious, but what else is there to say about this play? AJ Brown can go either side. I think that safety's trying to get over and help, but good luck. And if they double AJ Brown, what do, Shane? You take the opposite side. You run a QB draw. There's not really an easy way of stopping this, because if you want to double AJ Brown at the snap, I mean, realistically, how many times do you see receivers doubled like this in the red zone? If you doubled AJ Brown like this, I would run a QB draw every single time, because you are going to be 10v9 in the box. So, yeah. And by the way, good comment from Connor. That is an absolute dime, by the way. It is a dime of a throw. I don't think it gets enough credit. It is a really, really good throw and catch.
If the guy that I scratched out, Jeremy Chin, doesn't follow Goedert, pretend he's not there because he bracketed AJ Brown. If you watch it play out, they're swinging Saquon out to the flat, and Dallas Goedert's going to block this guy, and it's a walk into the end zone. So, I mean, it's kind of I don't know how you stop this play. Well, you don't basically, you stop this play by just breaking up the pass or Jalen Hurts missing. But in terms of schematic wise, I'm not kidding. You could do that every game, and you could run that play. And if they double AJ Brown, just run a QB draw, because you're going to be 10v9 in the box. Doesn't mean you score, by the way. Like, just because you have the numbers in the box doesn't mean you score, but you could do that all the time. And people are saying it's hard because the pick 6, it is. But if you line up AJ Brown with an inside split and you throw it really far outside, you should be okay. Jalen Hurts is really, really accurate when the ball is out on time. So, by the way, another week, Shane, another no interception game from Jalen Hurts like the past 2 months. Say what you will, there's barely any turnover-worthy throws. Like, barely any. You watch Josh Allen at the start of the Chiefs game, and he has an absolute meltdown on the first drive of the game, and then he throws 2 potential picks. So there you go. I think the Eagles, it wasn't just the progression stuff I liked. It wasn't just marrying the run and pass together I liked. I think they also ran some easy stuff and got the ball to their best receiver. Unlike a couple of weeks ago or whatever, when he had one target or whatever, or one catch. So there you go. That's my final point. Had a comment here on YouTube about
our second point. Sorry.
Okay. about him
Not a
passing
mess.
up that go ball earlier. That was it was less open, but Brady commented on it and said it was a throw he had to take. Yeah, I broke that one down along with a bunch of other throws on my All-22 video that'll release later this afternoon, and I was pretty critical of that one as well. But
Patreon
overall,
spoiler.
Patreon
No, not spoiler. What do you call it? Not spoiler. Like, what's it called?
Preview.
Like preview.
Promo.
What's the little like? Well, what's the thing in films when you like set them up for the next thing?
Trailer
or oh, it's bad. What a cliffhanger. Cliffhanger. It's a cliffhanger. There we go.
Yeah.
Good old Patreon cliffhanger there. Yeah, I'll be honest. You can't have it both ways, though, guys. You can't. I tease, foreshadow. Thank you, smart people. You can't. You cannot moan that he doesn't pull the trigger to AJ Brown, and then moan that he takes a low percentage throw later on. Like, it's the game to an extent. I think he should have thrown both of them, and I've been consistent in that for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, let's get on to my final point. I want to talk about some pressure issues because there were certainly pressure issues in this game. I'll start off with this first one. This is the first sack. This is the play after he doesn't take the A.J. Brown deep shot, by the way, and throws it away. You take a sack on 3rd and 6, and it knocks you out of field goal range, which really sucks. But all I'm saying on this play, it looks like to me that you're trying to get Saquon out to the flat. A.J. Brown's driving vertically to create traffic for a safety that's one-on-one with Saquon. Okay, so let's pretend the pressure gets picked up. How do we think this plays out? Well, if Hurts is not ducking right now and he throws this to Saquon, Saquon's definitely getting the first down. That's right here. This is maybe a touchdown, right? It's a safety one-on-one with Saquon. So that's fine. But the protection's a mess. And I don't know, like maybe don't ask your left guard who's playing center and your backup tight end who can't block from his natural position to then line up at running back and pick up a pressure. Like, I don't know. That's not what I would do. Ask Barkley to block. If you're dead set on getting Barkley out to the flat, put Kenny Gainwell back there and let Kenny Gainwell block because he's an actual running back that blocks there. But really, I think Dickerson's just the one that messes up here. It looks to me like Dickerson like impacts Luvu, Grant Calcaterra steps to Bobby Wagner, and then Dickerson tries to come back to him. And I don't know. That's a mess. I think it's Dickerson's fault. I don't know for sure, but that's really bad. That one I was going to say that takes points off the board. Given Jake Elliott's kicking, maybe it doesn't take points off the board. Maybe it just gets you to punt, and it actually made better field position because you punted instead of missing a field goal. I don't know. But then we get the one, this is 3rd and 13, and they're going to throw. This is the corner route to Devontae Smith that becomes a pass interference. I look at this and I say this is clearly zero pressure. There's no safety deep in the middle of the field. You've got 3 over 3 at the bottom of the field, right? Now you have 2 corners or a corner and a safety over your tight end up here. So to me, they're either bracketing Dallas Goedert, which doesn't make a lot of sense, or they're zero blitzing. And so if they're bracketing Dallas Goedert, well, I like my one-on-one matchups at the bottom. We don't have to worry about zero blitz. But what is our plan for a zero blitz here? Because the routes that they run, you've got a deep corner route, too slow, right? You have a slant route. I like that. And it's open, but that's not what we take. We've got this sort of end route. And so if you watch this, just watch A.J. Brown. Imagine that we're hot off of this edge, off of this corner blitz here, and we throw this to A.J. Brown on the slant. I mean, I think that's a touchdown, right? Now, assuming we actually pick this guy up, because again, we're going to whiff on the interior pass protection. But that's a really difficult throw. And, shout out to Hurts for putting the ball on the money and getting the flag here. But at the end of the day, there's protection issues up front. Again, we're messing up our protection here. And it's Landon Dickerson. Like, he doesn't block either guy. It's like he tries to block both and he gets neither one, right? But if you picked that up, you can throw hot before this guy gets here to that slant route. Now, maybe their plan is just always to bootleg Hurts away from that pressure and throw the corner route. I don't know. But you've got issues with picking up this double A gap pressure again. Now we go to the second half and Landon Dickerson is in. And Landon Dickerson just gets walked back into Hurts. Now I've got problems with Hurts not taking this throw either. This is the other play that I really criticized him on the film review for. But now you got your starting center getting walked back in. And at the end of the day, maybe we throw this game out entirely because you've got Juergens playing with a hurt back in the second half, Dickerson playing on a bum ankle or bum knee in the first half at his unnatural position. Maybe you want to throw all of that out. But if you look at the other two playoff games, the Eagles' interior offensive line allowed a 26% pressure rate and a 7% sack rate in the first two games. There's been A-gap issues this year. There's been hot answer issues at times this year. It's been better than last year. But you feel better about having Dickerson and Juergens healthy in the Super Bowl, but you also look across the line of scrimmage and you see Chris Jones. And on the opposite sideline, you see Steve Spagnuolo, who loves to scheme this stuff up. And then you layer on top of that, man, what if Landon Dickerson tweaks his knee again early in the game? Or what if Cam Juergens' back issue flares up? Like, you need to be prepared for that. And I am a little concerned about the Eagles' interior offensive line. It's something that needs to be shored up over these 2 weeks heading into that Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't even tweet any of those clips this week, and I didn't even write about it in Bleeding Green. I basically just said, like, I don't think it's going to happen again. It's a really, really difficult one. It's clear to me that Dickerson could not handle playing center. And I do genuinely think the Eagles maybe need to look at a backup solution for Cam Juergens that isn't Landon Dickerson. If Cam Juergens, for some reason, went down in the Super Bowl, I think both of them will be fit. And I think both of them will play. I think the things we read are pretty good. Landon Dickerson carried on playing. Cam Juergens even played when he wasn't supposed to. They got 2 weeks to rest up, and it's the Super Bowl. They will play. So I think a lot of it is going to come down. There's a couple of comments saying, Coach Lombard saying, shored up. How? I mean, shored up just literally because the players are the proper players. Just don't think Landon Dickerson understood what he was doing from the protection point of view playing center, in all honesty. Like, I don't want to be rude to the guy. There was about 2 or 3 examples when he looked completely lost. I know there's a lot of people saying he played center at Alabama. I'm like, that was like years ago. And most of the thing I was worried about was just snapping the football. He's probably got completely different pass protections like calls than he has for the Eagles when he played at Alabama. It was 4 years ago or whatever, however long ago it was. Like, it's a completely different position. There's a couple of other comments saying, is it Dickerson can't play? I just don't think he's done it. Like, of course I think he can play. I think if you give him the whole offseason to practice it, I think he'd be fine. Just hasn't done it ever in the NFL. It's a dramatically different position. Like, I was surprised he was the backup, in all honesty. And then a good comment from Matt saying confidence level in Steen. I'm not sure Steen's a left guard. I think he's looked better at right guard when he's played this year as well. So I think you're ruining 2 positions when you move Dickerson to center. And I think they need to really look at a backup center, because I'm not sure that I would be running with the guys they did this week. I'm saying all this. Spags is going to have some success because the Chiefs always have some success because that's what they do. But the Eagles will be far better this week. Just basically take my word for it all in Super Bowl, because as long as Juergens is back, it will not be as bad. There are obviously things you can do. You can play less condensed splits to stop Spags from blitzing second-level defenders. We will get into that next week. Biggest thing is just don't screw up pre-snap. Like, the Eagles have been good against the blitz all year. They've had good hot routes in their progressions all year, so I'm not going to suddenly panic. It was clearly the worst game. It was also the game that Cam Juergens wasn't playing at center. So I'll leave you to put 2 and 2 together. Right. We're nearly 45 minutes in, and I do want to spend a little bit of time on the defense this week, and I don't want to go more than half an hour more. So I'm going to do my final point very quickly. To be honest, you can show the plays, Shane, but I feel like everyone's seen the plays all the time. I just put Saquon Barkley as my third point because I feel like we can't just keep having podcasts where we don't talk about Saquon Barkley. There was nothing particularly fancy in the Eagles run game this week. There was nothing that, like, from a schematic point of view, I was like, oh, this is cool. Yes, on play 1, they ran a crack toss, which I think you're showing here with jet motion, but we've covered that. I feel like everyone's seen this play 100 times. I will say that moment here, if you're watching, where he danced inside after the spin, I think he's not got enough credit for how ridiculously athletic this is to land and plant and then just go. The other touchdowns were ridiculous. The second one, when Frankie Louvu, that is a linebacker running through the B gap unblocked, and Saquon's just like, yeah, no. He doesn't even touch him, and he runs through the B gap unblocked. Like, that is absurd. I've said this before. I've never seen a better running back season in my life. I think it may be the best running back season of all time, however you want to compare them. I don't think I've seen a player this special on a football field. I think he is legitimately the best player on the field every single week. Like, obviously, the Eagles have got some serious talent. They've had some serious talent in the past, but he looks like a man destined to hit an explosive run every single game. Like, when he scored on the first play, was anyone shocked? It's just like, yeah, Saquon's doing it again. He just looks so locked in. I don't think he's got enough credit as well for playing the amount he's played and carrying the amount he's played this year. He has just played so much as well. He barely comes off, and he just does it all of the time. So yeah, what an unbelievable season. And there's nothing even really to say about these runs. Then they didn't run anything more creative. I just literally wanted to mention him as a point to say the Eagles are incredibly lucky that the Giants did not want to keep him or did not re-sign him, because he has hit another level this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to the Giants for aiding the Eagles in their Super Bowl run. Okay, let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. We'll try to be we're always briefer on the second half, whichever one it is. So I won't even say we'll try. I will promise that we will be briefer on the second half. I want to start us off and talk about screen defense. And this is important, not to look ahead, but the Chiefs throw a lot of screen passes to Xavier Worthy. But if you watch the Eagles, like, they just know. Like, watch this screen pass and watch how everybody flows to the ball. Like, everybody's just there. Like, watch the reaction of the defensive line. Watch the linebackers. Watch the safeties all converge on this. Like, you've got a safety beating the lineman out there. The offside safety beating the lineman out there. A linebacker's out there. Everybody just flows to the football, and it's beautiful. And then you get this little trips, and you motion into the bunch, and Cooper DeJean just knows. Quinyon Mitchell walks up. Cooper DeJean jams the guy, and Quinyon Mitchell breaks on the throw. And then you get the trip. And I loved this one because I think the Eagles bait the Commanders into this one. They're out here in their bunch, and you get Zach Bond walking down to the edge to blitz. And, like, if you see this and you're the quarterback, I'm going to throw the screen, right? I've got 3 over 2. And I honestly just think the Eagles bait them into this, and Cooper DeJean jumps it, and so well coached, so aggressive, flowing downhill, everybody going to the football. They knew what Washington wanted to do, especially out on the perimeter, and I thought they did a great job of shutting it down. So shout out to the Eagles screen defense, and that all comes from film study and tendencies.
Yeah, Quinyon was really good in so many things this week. But yeah, they were particularly good against the screen. The rallying to the football is normally exceptional, actually. I'm just looking at our points. It's a good comment there. I'm just looking at our points. Do you want to read it out?
Yeah, a great one here from Brett Eclipse says that on the Shane Page's second half time management difference is reminiscent of Jalen Hurts' second half EPA differences.
I love it. I want to talk about, actually, yes, I can mention this in a later place. That's fine. Sorry, I'm mentally figuring out what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to start by talking about the first drive of the game. And I am guaranteeing you, I will bet my life savings, which isn't a huge amount these days. But if it was more, I would still bet it, that the Chiefs are going to target the Eagles in the flat all the time early on, because that first drive was bizarre. If you just play up plays 2 and 3 on my film, Fred Shane, the Eagles gave up crucial plays on 3rd and 4th down, where either there was a miscommunication, as on this one to Eckler, and nobody's in the flat. And you see after the snap, I cut it off before, but there's a few of them just looking at each other like, who's got the flat again? And then play 4, I think, play 3, I think, is arguably worse, because Bourne's playing with inside leverage, even though he's got a safety out there. He just doesn't get out there quick enough. And that's unlike me to criticize Zach Bourne, but I don't think he's out there quick enough. And you think you can tell Blankenship, tell him, like, mate, get outside. You've got inside help. You do not want to have a situation with 2 inside guys. And shout out me, because I commented that on my BGM preview, saying that the Washington is very good. I just did, so I can. I commented specifically in the preview saying that Washington are going to target the flats because they did it last time we played and the Eagles had trouble with it. And I think the Eagles got better at it. But on the first drive, it was pretty strikingly obvious that, like, the Eagles was getting lost in the flat, and Washington hammered it early on. And I expect the Chiefs to hammer it as well. Like, if there's something Andy Reid does, we had a great question in the Discord this week about what Andy Reid does well. He's not like a Shanahan where he's got like a very specific scheme. What he does is he kills your biggest weakness. And if you have a weakness in the flat, he will relentlessly pick on it. He will know exactly different ways to target it. And the Eagles need to be a little bit careful that they don't have the same issue, or the Chiefs will find themselves having quite a lot of success early on.
Yeah. Jonny's like, I'm going to shout myself out here for a minute. You imagine post-game Super Bowl press conference, Jalen Hurts is fresh off a good performance, got the Super Bowl MVP, and they ask him about his game. Jalen, what do you want to say? He's like, well, first of all, shout out to Jalen Hurts because he played awesome.
Shout out Jalen.
Yeah.
I actually didn't say shout out to Jonny. That would be strange. I said shout out me. It's much less arrogant. Far less. Just finally, before you get to second point, a good comment from Coach saying, doesn't he use the first drive to create a baseline? Yeah, I feel like this is an excuse for Kellen Moore as well. We've said this in the past. You can still do things and still play good coverage. Like, Zach Ball doesn't need to play inside and give up on 4th and 5 because Vic Fangio wants to see what Washington are doing. That's just an error. Like, I think sometimes you can use it as an excuse for anything. I doubt Vic's going, you know what, Zach, give up the quick out on 4th and 5, because then they'll think we've got them later on. And then they're going to have a problem. I think that's just an excuse that you can say about nearly anything, in all honesty.
Let's gather some data on if Jaden Daniels will throw to the wide open guy we don't cover. Let's just see if he'll.
By the way, he did, because Zach Ertz had 11 catches. So, yeah, there we go.
All right, well, let's keep rolling. I'll get into my second point. I want to talk about stunts and rush lane integrity. I'm going to tie those together. And show, I thought the Eagles generally had a really good job had a really good plan when it came to rushing Jaden Daniels. On this first one, you're going to get Jalen Carter and Moro Ojomo twisting. So Jalen Carter comes inside, Moro Ojomo loops around behind, and then Smith is going to string out at the left of the screen. He's going to string out contain here. And so you get Carter underneath, Ojomo looping out. Now, ideally, you want Nolan Smith to make this tackle, but he's able to slow him down, push him to the sideline. Moro Ojomo is there to force him out of bounds. That's great. You get him moving sideline to sideline instead of up the field. That's what you want to do. Now, on this 4th and 2, it looks like to me, and I could be reading this wrong, maybe it's just a screw up, but I think Milton Williams and Jalix Hunt are supposed to be running like a TE stunt here, and they just kind of mess up and they run into each other. Maybe Milton Williams just messes up and gets too far upfield and this isn't a stunt. But it kind of looks like a stunt to me that they just mess up and run into each other. And it leaves a wide open rush lane. And Jaden Daniels picks up a 4th and 2 with his feet. That's unfortunate. It happens from time to time. But I thought by and large they did a really good job on this play. They're going to try to set up a play action bootleg towards the left side of the screen. And watch Nolan Smith. He recognizes immediately when this tight end comes to block him, why this tight end would want to pin him inside. And he's already fighting over the top before Daniels has even got his head downfield. And he's able to go attack it. Jordan Davis and Oren Burks, they all kind of triangulate around Jaden Daniels and get him on the ground. So I thought that was a good one. Here's one where you get Carter and Williams stunting in the middle. I think it's Carter crosses the center's face. And then you get Milton Williams looping around behind into that hole that was just created. And we've seen teams do that to Jalen Hurts where he wants to scramble. I thought the Eagles did a pretty good job on that one. On this one, I tweeted this one, and I was Bryce Huff is in the game here, and he's going to hit an inside spin move, and he loses his feet and loses contain. However, maybe this was planned because Jalen Carter doesn't really rush at all. So maybe he's supposed to be kind of looping around here, but he bumps into the running back. That's my theory now after watching this play some more, is I think it's less that Bryce Huff just went rogue and inside spun. I think Carter's supposed to have the edge, but he runs into the running back. But Nolan Smith is able to run him down from behind anyways. So, I mean, it's always nice when you've got an edge rusher that can run down opposing quarterbacks from behind. But you look at this game, and barring an end of half scramble that I'm going to talk about very negatively in my final point, barring that one, Jaden Daniels only had 3 scrambles for 12 yards. I thought the Eagles did a fantastic job playing him, pressuring him without giving him lanes to escape.
Yes, I would agree. I just realized I thought I was going to end negatively, but I'm not, because I've got 2 more points. I'm going to start with a negative now. I'm going to end on a high. Shane, can you explain to me? And I really want to go in on the end of half stuff. For those of you wondering, Shane's going to get to it in his next point if you're panicking about the end of the half. So I'm not going to talk about the end of the first half. I'm going to talk about a moment in the second half before Austin Eckler's fumble. The score was only, I believe, 34-23. And the Washington went with a 16-yard pass to Reed Blankenship, then a 16-yard pass to Zach Ertz, and then 2 plays later, a 13-yard pass to Zach Ertz, and they were on at the 50 before Eckler fumbled. The Eagles decided to blitz and send 5 men and have Reed Blankenship cover Zach Ertz. And I've only got 1 of these plays, by the way. But if you've got any more that you want to show, please feel free. I was only going to show 1 because they were all the same. It was play number 11. I have no idea why the Eagles just started cover 1 man blitzing, but they need to make sure that they never, ever do it ever again against the Chiefs, because Travis Kelce will murder Reed Blankenship in 1-on-1. Like, I don't know why they did this. Zach Ertz is still awesome. He wrecked Reed Blankenship. Like, Reed Blankenship is good at a lot of things. Man coverage from the slot is not his game. I was going a little absurd on this drive, and if they had scored and it went down to a 1-score game, I'd have been a little bit mental. Like, I found that really odd. Whether they wanted to just get a couple of different looks at Daniels, I don't know. But I thought they were so much better in split safety coverage in this game. We are not going to talk about the Chiefs now. We'll do a whole podcast on it, but millions of people are going to ask us, what do you do about Travis Kelce? What you do is not this. You do whatever this is, what Shane's showing here on the 3rd and 10. This was the second one. You just don't do this. Never rush 5 and play Reed Blankenship 1-on-1 over the tight end against 1-on-1 over the tight end, because Travis Kelce would do exactly what Zach Ertz did. What you will see, and what the Eagles should do, is you need to bracket him. So play split safety, because split safety naturally ends up bracketing players anyway, because you quite often have 1 in, 1 out, or 1 short, 1 over the top. I found that sequence really weird, and I'm glad that it didn't cost the Eagles overall.
Yeah. We had a comment from Connor asking, how do we stop what Ertz did? How do we stop Kelce from doing it?
Yeah,
I do think
bracket.
I do think one key difference is Washington has a receiver that you are concerned about in Terry McLaurin, right? Terry McLaurin's a good receiver. The Chiefs just don't really have that. And so if you're a defensive coordinator thinking about the Commanders, you've got to worry about Jaden Daniels running. You've got to worry about Zach Ertz. You've got to worry about Terry McLaurin. If you're thinking about the Chiefs, it's Zach Ertz, it's Patrick Mahomes scrambling, and that's all I'm concerned about. And so I think it becomes a lot easier to devote, 2 sets of eyes on Travis Kelce every play than it is against Zach Ertz when you also have Terry McLaurin on the outside. So just brief thoughts there. We'll get into preview stuff later this week. I do think the Chiefs offense is it's a easier personnel matchup for you. Now, that doesn't mean the scheme won't be better for the Chiefs. And obviously the quarterback's better, and they're probably not going to turn the ball over 4 times, but personnel wise, it should be a little better matchup.
Yes, I agree. Right. Final point, Shane. You're going to go nice and negative because, oh my God, this was bad. So I'm excited to hear your opinion. I'm guessing you've got a few clips lined up for this one. If you want to moan, I'm going to end with a nice positive, but talk to me about the end of the first half. Before you do so, Shane, just very quickly, if I can because I reckon you might have set the scene. If I can just set the scene very quickly. Washington started on their 30-yard line with 39 seconds left. Okay. With 2 seconds left, they had the ball in the Philadelphia 24 and kicked a 42-yard field goal. They used no timeouts in that gap. And you might think, maybe they gave up like one really. No plays at over 20 yards either. Like, talk about make it as easy as you can. They marched, 56 yards in less than 40 seconds with no play above 20 yards and didn't call a timeout. And by the way, the Eagles called a timeout at one point as well. And they took the clock right down to the end of the half. So in reality, it didn't even take like 39 seconds, because the final pass to Zach Ertz to get out of bounds was 13 seconds left. So you're talking less than 30 seconds. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll start the play before that I have queued up here when Washington runs up to spike the ball and Jalen Carter tries to do his little dive under the center to catch it thing that will never work. It's never going to happen. And he gets an encroachment penalty. Gives them 5 yards. They don't have to clock the ball. But so now you're 21 seconds left, 1st and 5 at the Washington 46-yard line. Why are we blitzing? Like, why are we blitzing? I don't understand. You're going to send Oren Burks and drop Zach Bond. Okay. Now you could say this is Milton Williams' fault. Milton Williams goes to the left. If he goes to the right here, he doesn't give Jaden Daniels room to escape for this big scramble. And you're probably right. He should not be doing that. You know what happens if he doesn't do that? Jaden Daniels throws the drag route that has nobody even close, and it still goes for 20 yards for a first down because we're like fire zone blitzing for no reason and just leaving all this underneath stuff. You know what you want to do with no timeouts when you're not across midfield yet and there's 20 seconds left? You want to throw short and get out of bounds. This is just, it's just terrible.
This is coverage. The worst play I've ever seen. From fact, like the two guys are completely open. Yeah. And the rush lane is so bad. And Jane Daniels can just run through it. Like, this is about as bad of a play as I've ever seen anyone run. There's still 30 seconds left. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, you almost can't play this any worse. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. The Eagles have one defender within 15 yards of the line of scrimmage. Like, I don't even know. But it gets even worse, Johnny. This isn't even the worst. Let's talk about the worst one. Well, okay, you let him get out of bounds because you miss a tackle, and it stops the clock. Okay? So let's get even worse. Ball's on the 35-yard line. 13 seconds, no timeouts. The rule of thumb is that it takes 16 seconds to run a quick hitter and spike the ball. In perfect circumstances, you can maybe pull it off in like 14 seconds. But that's it. Like, 13 seconds left. There is no chance you can complete a pass inbounds and stop the clock. It cannot happen. So here's the thing. Washington comes out to run a play. That means they are doing one of two things. They are throwing a Hail Mary or they are throwing a quick out route to the sideline. The Eagles say, we think they're going to throw a Hail Mary, and they put 3 guys back here. That's great. You know what costs you nothing? To tell Quinyon Mitchell to stand right here on the 30-yard line with his butt pointed at the sideline and say, don't you let anybody get out of bounds. If you do that, there is no chance they can complete a pass and stop the clock. What are we doing here? Like, it costs you nothing. You've still got plenty of guys to defend the Hail Mary, but what you do here is you let them take the easiest throw in the world to get 11 yards, stop the clock, and you turn a 52-yard field goal attempt into a 41-yard field goal attempt for no reason. Like, Vic Fangio scares me at the end of halves and at the end of games. He is the best coordinator in the league for the first 29 minutes of every half. The last minute of every half terrifies me, and that's even more terrifying because Patrick Mahomes does this all the time. I saw a stat. I think it was Trey Wingo put it out. Have you seen this?
No, I have not, but I can imagine it's terrifying already.
Okay, so here we go, Johnny. In the playoffs, in the last, I think it was decade. Shoot, I'm not going to find the right stat now.
Good podcasting.
Oh, here we go. I've got it. Since 2001, there have been 125 postseason drives inside of a minute in the fourth quarter, and the team had the ball is trailing by 7 or less. Okay, 125 times. 40% of those drives have ended in a game-winning or game-tying score. Tom Brady had 11 opportunities. How many times do you think he led the scoring drive out of 11?
6.
6 out of 11. Good job. Drew Brees had 6 opportunities. How many times do you think Drew Brees got it out of 6?
4.
3. Pretty good.
All right.
Patrick Mahomes has had 7 such opportunities. How many times do you think he's led a scoring drive?
7.
7 for 7.
Oh,
He's the
my
only
God.
quarterback that's perfect in those situations.
Oh, my
When
God.
you combine that with Vic Fangio's whatever happens in his brain in the last 60 seconds of a half, I am terrified. Do not get in a 1-score game with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, Shane, before I finish up, can you just go back to the last play, the Zach Ertz one? Because I defended Fangio last week against the Rams. People were a bit mad and said we were playing prevent, and we actually weren't. When you watch the tape, we weren't playing prevent. We called it out on the podcast last week. Darius Slay was just playing with a lot of off coverage. It wasn't prevent. I will not defend this one. Just literally pause it when like the snap is, or before the snap. Right, okay, pause it there. Okay, that is prevent. Like, okay, I was nice to him last week. There's 13 seconds left, and they're trying to kick a field goal. Why are you all there? The funny thing is, Shane, it's not like this is like Jim Swartz style, like single high blitzes. They play split safety anyway. Just play split safety and play normal. I tweeted this, but literally, I could fix the Eagles defense. I really could. I would go to Vic Fangio and say, what you're going to do, Vic, is don't look at the clock and just play it like every other normal drive. And if you do that, I fixed it. Do you know why? Because your normal defense is good. Just pretend the game, there's no such thing as situational football and defense. Just play a normal drive. Just tell them they got 4 downs to get 10 yards. There you go. Figure it out. That's it. Figure it out. Right. I'm going to end it up with Quinyon. It's just that easy. I'm going to end up with Quinyon Mitchell. I do not think Quinyon Mitchell has got enough national hype. I do not think he's got enough hype for the playoffs. Just how good he is for a rookie. And I think Cuba DeJean is also awesome. But I wanted to just talk about Quinyon Mitchell. I don't have a lot of clips because, in all honesty, Shane, they didn't throw at him. Do you know why they don't throw at him? Because he's that good. They're like, nah, not worth it. It's not worth going after him. I will start with a negative. I wanted to post a TD, and Shane, if you've got the touchdown that Washington scored, there's just a little bit of a learning moment. I reckon Quinyon will, and I think you know what I'm going to say, I think Fangio will get on Quinyon for this afterwards. So this play is a horrendous play by the Eagles defense. First at fault is Darius Slay, who gives up the slant. However, he's got outside leverage, but he needs to tackle him. Second at fault is Zach Bourne, who takes who misses the tackle. Third at fault is Reed Blankenship, who takes a rubbish angle. But fourth is Quinyon Mitchell. We talk a lot about rallying to the football. When he catches it here, look at the position of Quinyon. When he catches it, look at Quinyon and the receiver he's with, right? Look at those two players. Watch the difference between the Washington receiver, and now pause it, and look at the gap between Quinyon and the Washington receiver he was next to. So the receiver he was next to is now approaching the end zone. Quinyon is fast, very fast. He would have caught up with him and prevented the touchdown. If he had rallied to the football, he would have prevented it. And I'm not criticizing him and saying he's lazy. He's not. He's really, really not. He's great in run defense, and he's very good against the screen game. I think that's just a little teaching moment, especially in the Super Bowl. You rally to absolutely everything. Despite that, let's show some good stuff. I almost don't even want to show a great deal because, honestly, he wasn't targeted. There's a couple I'll show. Play 6 on my film thread. He doesn't do anything spectacular. Part of the reason why I'm showing play 6 on my film thread is because Vic Fangio ran cover 2. Like, what the hell? Vic Fangio never runs cover 2. So Quinyon Mitchell barely ever plays cover 2, and he still plays it so well here. He's at the bottom of the screen, and he does just enough to take away the in, but also make sure he gets outside for the deep route. He puts Jaden Daniels, who can't throw it to either of them because he has such good zone depth on both of them, and the ball gets thrown away. Then there, I think, is a ridiculously good play. I think it was a Nolan Smith sack, actually, which I believe you have shown. Yes, play 13 on my film thread, the Nolan Smith sack. This play is ideally going to go to Zach Ertz on the deep over route, and I think it does actually get open if Nolan Smith doesn't get pressure. But the second one he wants to go to here, Jaden Daniels, is roll out to his right and hits the receiver coming across the formation. Because of the inside split, Quinyon Mitchell has outside leverage. This route should be open, and it's not because Quinyon just runs so well. He's undercutting that. If that ball's thrown, it gets picked. And then, speaking of getting picked, play 14. How could I not end with play 14 on my film thread? Play 14 is a play where a couple of weeks ago, Quinyon Mitchell was badly beaten on a deep ball by Terry McLaurin. He got too far inside. Fast forward a few weeks later, and it's the same route. He runs shoulder to shoulder with him. He never flips his hips. He stays looking at the quarterback the whole time. Do you know how hard that is to cover a vertical route? He never turns around. He's looking at the QB the whole. Do you know the arrogance it takes for a young quarterback not to run? He's like, no, I'm fast enough. I'm good enough. Leans back, pushes him into the sideline. If you pause it at the catch point for a guy who couldn't catch 2 months ago, I mean, look how high he gets. That's a very good. That is a receiver. That is a jump ball situation. Look at the athleticism and catch point skills. And
he
then
still can't catch.
He
goes
put
right off
the
the
ball
hand.
coming down. Shut up. He put the ball coming down. So he still catches it off the rebound here. I mean, to be fair, yeah, Terry could have caught that. But just an absurdly good rookie cornerback. Playing rookie cornerback is hard. I think outside of cornerback is the hardest position to learn. How many busts do we see of rookie cornerbacks? The fact they have Cooper DeJean and they have Quinyon Mitchell. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I wanted to give Quinyon a shout out because he was awesome in this game and they didn't even target him.
Yeah, it's always a good thing when you're defending a deep ball and you have eyes on it before the receiver does, because you just never had to flip your hips at all. I put this stat out after the game that Terry McLaurin was lined up on against Quinyon Mitchell on 36 routes. This was per Next Gen Stats. And he was targeted 4 times and had 1 catch for 7 yards. And it was on the 3rd play of the game. So Quinyon Mitchell just dominated in this game, as he seemed to do down the stretch.
Yeah, there's nothing else sad about him, is he? He's made a few errors towards the end of the season, but that was it. Like, just incredibly good.
Yeah. So I think that is going to do it. Somehow, as we always do, we still get done in about an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes. That's the right length.
That's the right length, especially when we got so much coming up the next couple of weeks. That feels about right. There's this thing called the Super Bowl, Shane. I don't know if you know about it, but apparently the Eagles are playing in it. So it feels like we have more work to do.
How about that? 3rd time in 8 years. It's awesome. So thank you guys for joining in on the show. Again, next week, we're going to be doing a preview show on Thursday instead of Wednesday, and we're going to be joined by Brandon Lee Gouton of Bleeding Green Nation. But for our Patreon members, we've got a lot of stuff coming out between now and then. We're going to have Chiefs offense rewatch on Friday. And then next week, we're going to do a Chiefs defense rewatch. There's going to be lots of cool stuff coming your way. My All-22 film review is going to drop here momentarily after we stop recording. I've just got to edit that and upload it. So you can look forward to all of that stuff. Jonny, before we get out of here, do you have any final thoughts for the people?
No, it was an awesome show. Shout out to the chat as always. Yeah, Discord is awesome. Our Patreon is cool. We're trying to do loads more stuff on there. As I mentioned, if you've got any ideas for what you want to do pre-Super Bowl as well, I'm also going to do a little Patreon live stream, maybe with Shane, maybe with just me on the day of the Super Bowl. So if you've got any last-minute Q&A questions you want to ask after 2 weeks of preparing for it, you'll be able to jump in with that as well. But yeah, shout out to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. There is the content schedule. Again, it's on Twitter. We both tweeted it out. You guys can check it out. Check out that sweet graphic that definitely didn't take me like an hour and a half to make.
It is mad.
But anyways, we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for following along with the coverage. Thank you for those of you that support us on Patreon. It enables us to do a lot of the extra cool things that we've got coming this way. So we are going to get out of here. We will catch you guys, our Patreons, on Friday. The rest of you will catch you next week for some more Super Bowl talk. Go Birds.